Pause, glance at your screen. Notice that empty silence staring back at you. Feel that tight knot of worry building in your chest because she still hasn't responded, because something shifted between you two and you didn't even sense it happening. You've convinced yourself that being kind enough, present enough, caring enough will guarantee her devotion. You've been taught that love operates like a fair exchange of goodness. That when you offer your heart, she's somehow duty-bound to protect it with care. But take a hard look around. The agreeable men get overlooked. The ones who bend over backward get tossed into the friend category. The guys who'd sacrifice everything for her are the ones she values the least. What's the reason? Because the natural order doesn't reward what desperately clings to survival. Human behavior doesn't favor constant availability and attraction. Attraction isn't constructed on comfort. It thrives on friction. Niccolò Machiavelli, the architect of ruthless tactics, grasped something fundamental about people that today's culture keeps hidden from you. He recognized that humans are thankless, inconsistent, fake, and two-faced. He understood that influence isn't handed to the morally righteous. It's seized by the calculated. You're here because you're exhausted from being a spectator in your own romantic life. You're drained by the confusion, the psychological warfare, and the indirect coldness. You're curious why certain men capture interest without effort while you labor for it like you're enslaved. The secret isn't your appearance. It's not your bank account. It's your internal structure. Over these next 20 minutes, we're going to tear down every false belief you've absorbed about women, romance, and emotional bonds. We're going to take the cold precision of Machiavellian power tactics and unleash it on the messy realm of relationships. I'm handing you 7 mental weapons. These aren't cheesy pickup strategies. They're fundamental shifts in how you see reality. They're instruments that once locked into your consciousness will prevent anyone from ever manipulating you again. But here's your warning. Once you recognize the machinery of influence, there's no going back. You'll spot the invisible strings controlling everyone around you. If you're prepared to stop acting like a desperate admirer and start becoming the ultimate catch, stay with me. Let's dissect what killed your nice guy identity. First law, the power of absence. Rarity generates worth. Let's open with the harshest marketplace reality. If oxygen had a price tag, you'd only buy it when you were suffocating. Right now, you're like free oxygen. You're constantly accessible. You're everywhere at once. Your replies come within seconds. You're perpetually ready to meet up. You rearrange everything the instant she shows the smallest bit of interest. You think this demonstrates commitment. Psychologically, you're broadcasting low status. Machiavelli declared that excessive familiarity creates disrespect. He grasped that the more a ruler exposes himself, the less intimidating he becomes and the less admiration he commands. This principle transfers directly to romantic dynamics. When your presence is guaranteed, you strip her of the most addictive chemical in the human nervous system, her own imagination. When you're absent, her thoughts drift to you. She wonders about your activities. She questions who you're spending time with. She debates whether you're thinking of her. Inside that space of not knowing, her imagination constructs a version of you far more compelling than reality. But you steal that from her. You overwhelm her with your constant presence. To dominate the situation, you need to perfect strategic withdrawal. This isn't about disappearing to be cruel. It's about making your life's mission more important than her validation. When you're genuinely occupied constructing your empire, training your physique, refining your intellect, your absence isn't a game. It's simply the natural consequence of your value. A woman intuitively recognizes the distinction between a man faking busyness to trigger her interest and a man genuinely constructing an existence larger than her. The former is a fraud. The latter is royalty. You need to get comfortable with empty silence. When you send something and she waits 3 hours before responding, your old self would spiral. Your old self would send another message immediately. Your Machiavellian self sets the device aside and returns to work. You don't weaponize silence against her. You simply refuse to reward her with your nervous energy. You need to grasp that human beings are biologically wired to pursue what moves away. It's the predator mechanism. If you're constantly chasing her, you force her to retreat simply to preserve breathing room. Stop the chase. Root yourself in your purpose. Turn away and move toward your ambitions and observe how fast she pivots to follow. Drop this phrase in the comments if this resonates. My absence comes at a premium. Second law, calculated emotional variance, random reward patterns. The human mind craves predictability but grows numb to it. If a gambling machine delivered winnings every single pull, you'd play for a few minutes, collect your payout, and walk away. You'd be completely bored. But gambling machines operate differently. They pay out randomly. Sometimes you win big, sometimes you lose, sometimes you almost win. That randomness triggers dopamine spikes comparable to hardcore narcotics. This is intermittent reinforcement, and it's psychology's most powerful addiction tool. Most men are walking patterns. They're predictably pleasant, predictably reactive, or predictably self-doubting. She knows precisely what words will make you grin. She knows exactly what actions will get you to apologize. You're a story she's already finished. Why would she pick it up again? Machiavelli counseled the ruler to embody both the lion and the fox. The lion radiates strength and intimidation. The fox possesses cunning and mystery. You must become both. You need to shatter your own behavioral patterns. If your default is stoic composure, shock her with a flash of raw poetic intensity. If you're typically warm and affectionate, withdraw and become detached and logical for a while. Not from cruelty, but to remind her that your warmth isn't guaranteed income. It's performance-based compensation. It requires earning. When she can't anticipate your responses, she's forced to study you closely. She must analyze you. She must tread carefully around you. And this focused attention is where obsession takes root. People often confuse this with cruelty. It's not. It's about possessing emotional depth that belongs to you, not to her. Most men function as emotional reflections. If she radiates happiness, they mirror happiness. If she's melancholy, they become melancholy. If she turns cold, they panic. You're allowing her emotional climate to dictate your internal weather. To command the frame, you must become your own weather pattern. You can radiate joy when she's distant. You can maintain calm when she's chaotic. This dismantles her power over you. When she discovers she can't press a button and trigger a predictable reaction, she begins craving your approval rather than assuming it. She starts wondering what's going through your mind. And the instant a woman asks herself that question, you've already won. Third law, the reflection technique, strategic validation. We're all self-absorbed. We all prioritize ourselves above everyone else. Machiavelli understood that to influence people, you don't announce what you want. You reveal what they crave. And what does a woman desire above everything? To be truly seen, to be deeply understood, to feel like the protagonist of her own story. Most men attempt to impress women by broadcasting themselves. They boast about their careers, their vehicles, their fitness achievements. They believe this demonstrates high status. Actually, this screams insecurity. They're essentially pleading for attention and approval. The Machiavellian strategy flips this completely. You become her reflection. You reduce your talking. You amplify your listening, but you listen with focused, almost predatory attention. You ask questions nobody else considers. You strip away the protective layers of her psychology. What drives that behavior? What truly terrifies you? You project toughness to everyone, but I recognize the vulnerable child beneath that shield. When you dissect her inner world, when you address her hidden self, you forge a connection that feels like fate. She'll think she's never experienced this depth of understanding with anyone. She feels this because you're mirroring her own ego back at her. You're granting her center stage. But here's the mechanism, and this is where control emerges. You control the mirror. You decide when to hold it up and when to lower it. When you provide someone with profound, intense validation, they become dependent on it. And when you remove that validation, when you stop probing, when you stop examining her with that intensity, she'll do whatever it takes to recover it. She'll chase the version of herself she witnessed reflected in your gaze. Deploy this with precision. Don't compliment her physical beauty. Every man does that. Validate her efforts. Validate her darkness. Validate the aspects she conceals from the world. Make her feel exposed yet protected. That's psychological intimacy. And it's a bond stronger than iron. Fourth law, eliminate the pedestal balanced evaluation. There's a fatal flaw in your mental programming. You've been conditioned by fairy tales, by cinema, and by maternal influence to view women as goddesses, as flawless, angelic beings who deserve worship. This is the pedestal phenomenon, and it disgusts high-value women. Consider the logic. If you treat her like a celebrity, she has no option but to treat you like an obsessed fan. Fans don't get intimate access to celebrities. Fans purchase tickets. Fans stand in queues. Fans remain observers. Machiavelli instructed that a ruler must perceive reality exactly as it exists, not as he wishes it to be. You must see her truthfully. She's human. She possesses flaws. She carries insecurities. She's made terrible choices. She uses the restroom. She wakes with morning breath. When you observe her with worshipful eyes, she senses your inferiority. She detects that you believe she's beyond your level. And women are hypergamous. They partner upward or horizontally. They never partner downward. By elevating her on a pedestal, you're voluntarily positioning yourself beneath her. You're signaling that you're not her equal. To control the dynamic, you must demolish the pedestal. You must meet her gaze levelly. You must be willing to oppose her views. You must be willing to address her poor behavior. You must be willing to playfully tease her, to push back against her, to joke at her expense. When a stunning woman is accustomed to men stammering and validating everything she says, the man who states he thinks she's mistaken becomes a system shock. It signals you're not intimidated by her appearance. It signals you value your own convictions above her validation. This is the foundation of respect. She cannot respect a man she dominates completely. She cannot love a man she doesn't respect. By removing her from the pedestal, you're actually creating space for her to love you. You're inviting her into reality where genuine connection exists. Stop apologizing for your existence. Stop laughing at unfunny jokes. Stop endorsing opinions you find idiotic. Be authentic. Be uncompromising with your standards. If she crosses boundaries, correct her not with rage, but with amused authority, like disciplining a misbehaving child. You're quite the handful, aren't you? Shift the frame from hoping she approves of you to evaluating whether she meets your standards. Fifth law, the power of silence. Machiavelli knew that whoever speaks least commands the most authority. In negotiations, whoever fills the silence surrenders. In conflicts, whoever raises their voice surrenders. In seduction, whoever over-explains surrenders. You talk excessively. You explain yourself because you fear being misinterpreted. You send paragraph-length texts because you worry she'll miss your meaning. You constantly seek to clarify. Stop. Your words are draining your power. Mystery cannot survive in an autobiography. If you reveal your complete life history on date one, you're a solved puzzle. You get put back in storage. You must remain an unsolved puzzle. Weaponize silence. When she tests you, when she throws emotional fits, when she attempts to provoke reactions, give her nothing. Observe her with calm, unreadable eyes. Let the silence extend until discomfort fills the air. She will scramble to fill that void. She will begin explaining herself. She will begin seeking your validation. Silence broadcasts confidence. It demonstrates comfort in your own presence. It suggests you're assessing her. It activates her anxiety mechanism. Why isn't he responding? What's running through his mind? Remember, you're the ruler. Rulers don't justify their decisions. They declare them, or better still, they act. Never announce that you're high value. Never state you won't accept disrespect. Simply respond to disrespect with absence. Simply demonstrate value through behavior. Words belong to the powerless. Silence belongs to the sovereign. Master the deliberate pause. Before answering any question, wait 3 seconds. Hold her gaze. Breathe, then respond. That small gap shatters her autopilot. It reveals deliberate control. It makes every word you speak carry enormous weight. Sixth law, the readiness to depart, complete self-sufficiency. We've reached the ultimate weapon of dark psychology. The supreme power maneuver. The one element that cannot be counterfeited. The genuine readiness to walk away and never glance backward. Machiavelli wrote that a ruler shouldn't depend on others' goodwill but solely on his own power. If you need her, she possesses you. If you enjoy her company but can thrive without her, you possess the world. Most men remain in toxic situations because they fear the emptiness. They fear solitude. They accept disrespect. They accept mediocrity. They accept manipulation because they're negotiating from powerlessness. The instant you internalize, truly absorb internally that you are the prize, everything transforms. The moment you recognize that billions of women exist but only one you exists, the fear dissolves. This isn't about pretending. Women possess a sixth sense for deception. They detect when you're faking readiness to leave. You must genuinely cultivate an existence so fulfilling, so purpose-driven, so abundant with alternatives that losing her would be unfortunate, not devastating. When she knows you'll show her the exit the instant she violates your boundaries, she won't leave. She'll shut the door and remain, because security exists within the container of a strong man's boundaries. If your boundaries are tissue paper, she feels unsafe. If your boundaries are stone, if your refusal means actual refusal, she can relax into her feminine essence. She desires leadership, but she can only be led by a man who knows his destination with or without her presence. This is love's paradox. You only retain what you're willing to release. Grasp sand tightly and it escapes through your fingers. Open your palm and it rests there peacefully. Construct your kingdom. If she desires to be queen, she must honor the kingdom's laws. If she refuses, the gates remain open. That energy is intoxicating. That's the energy of a man who defies control, and therefore he becomes the man every woman wants to control, and failing that, the man every woman wants to surrender to. Let's step back and observe. We titled this video Machiavellian Tactics to Control Any Woman, and you clicked because you wanted power over her. But have you noticed the thread connecting every single principle? Strategic absence, emotional unpredictability, destroying the pedestal, silence, walking away. None of these control her. They control you. That's the ultimate revelation of dark psychology. You cannot control another human being. You can only manipulate circumstances, but you can control yourself with absolute dominance. The reason you failed previously is because you were enslaved by your own impulses. Enslaved by your desires, enslaved by your need for validation, enslaved by your fear of being alone. When you conquer those internal slaves, when you become a man who doesn't need, when you become the source of your own approval, you become a gravitational force. She doesn't submit to your aggression. She submits to your order. She doesn't submit to your anger. She submits to your tranquility. Control isn't grasping someone's throat. Control is mastering your own mind. When you're the most centered presence in any space, everything else orbits around you. That's physics. That's nature. So don't go out attempting to deceive women. Go out and ruthlessly master your own consciousness. Eliminate the nice guy. He's pathetic and dishonest. Give birth to the prince. He's powerful and truthful. The world awaits you claiming your throne, but the throne exists within you. If you're ready to stop pleading and start commanding, type this in the comments. I choose dominance. And remember, the next video will drag you even deeper into the dark corners of human psychology. You've learned how to stand firm. Next, we'll teach you how to advance. Don't miss it. Subscribe.